Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So I'm going to say something right now. I don't mean to be negative, but it's real. And that is, life ain't easy. It just isn't. There's so much going on, so many different pieces. And then sometimes you've got so much on your plate that it just can't support it anymore. And sometimes you hit the wall and sometimes you're burned out. You are. And you got to get back from that and restart life and move things forward. Well, I found a professional burnout specialist. Never even knew they existed. Her name is Lovell Nesmith, and she joins us again today. How you doing today, Anna?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing real great. We've talked before. I just want to reset for anybody that is checking us out for the first time on a video or listening to us. What makes you a specialist when it comes to burnout?
It's just the area I focus on. I really help people really identify what that looks like, remove any shame or guilt associated with it, and also create the awareness that it happens to everybody. And so I really hone in on exactly what this looks like and how to help alleviate that.
In what you practice and dealing with people, are you finding that more and more people are telling you that they are burned out?
Yeah, especially after the last 2 years. I mean, it's always been prominent, but especially after the last 2 years.
Why do you think that is? And I'm even asking that question because so many things have changed in the last 2 years. Relationships, it's almost as if somebody took a rock and hit the pond, just like, and just the ripples went out, and then all those changes happen because of COVID. Why do you think?
Well, I think you're exactly right. It's because of COVID. But on top of that, it was no one ever had the chance to really start when we were pivoting. I felt like we were constantly pivoting with what we could do, what we couldn't do, how we could work, how we couldn't work, go into the office, don't go into the office. And then boom, it was shut down. But even at that point, there was still a lot of inconsistencies on how can we proceed, what's safe, what's not safe. And so when we as humans have constant instability, it makes us feel fearful, it makes us feel exhausted, it makes us feel anxious, and it feels like we're out of control, right? And so a lot of these things, just in the nature of it, are also what burnout can look like. And so trying to find that rhythm and any kind of normalcy during that time was really difficult and challenging for all of us. And really, there wasn't any normalcy because it was all brand new for all of us. And then with this transition of going back into the office, it's a whole lot of uncertainties and we're not quite sure what's going to happen. And I think for some, there's this idea like, are we going to get shut down again? And so all that fear on top of our daily duties and our roles in our companies and in our families or just in our daily lives, it just magnifies all of the constant emotions we're going through all the time, really. But when there's fear and uncertainty introduced, it just amplifies all those emotions and makes them seem a lot larger and it feels a lot bigger. And like I said, there's some people still feeling like, well, the transition back to work seems a little uncertain still. And so I think that's fun.
Yeah. Now, so we talk about work and schedules and things like that in terms of perpetuating the burnout. But what about relationships? Can there be burnout in relationships?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that when we are burned out with just how we're feeling, a natural byproduct is that with any person that we're talking to, when we normally have the compassion and empathy that we can relate and listen and be patient and be kind to those that we're dealing with intimately on a daily basis, it's almost like there's no more for that we're on the breaking point. And so in relationships, when little things like, let's say your partner has the cupboard open and you always close it, but this time it's open and you're like, I'm done closing this cupboard. It's like a switch. It just amplifies, it explodes. And so everything seems a lot bigger and a lot just louder because we're already at this level, this threshold of like, I'm trying to keep it together. And I feel like when we have that much space with another person and we're kind of forced to keep it, where we can't go out, where we can't do other things, the relationship begins to look a little different. And if we're not careful, it can look really bad. And so things that normally wouldn't bother us seem all of a sudden like a really big deal. But the truth is our patients are at a different threshold in how we're feeling and how we're able to compartmentalize certain things and how we're able to communicate, because it's almost like we're not sure how to communicate with ourselves because our minds are so busy and so loud. And so oftentimes we get into that reactive state, which is you just explode. The cupboard's not shut. That's it. I've had it. I'm going to slam that cupboard shut and I'm going to go off on my partner and say, what are you doing? I always close these. And it just seems like a huge deal when 2 years ago, it would have been like, let me close this cupboard again because he left it open. So
What do you do? What are some suggestions you have for people when they're at that tipping point? Or
yeah,
I guess you've identified when you realize that you're at that tipping point, right? Or if there are any other things you can share with us there?
yeah. So other identifying factors are just this idea of feeling hopeless, feeling like self-doubt, feeling like whatever you do is never enough because it's just you're never satisfied with your job, overwhelm, anxiety, just things that like I say, I feel like we go through these regularly, but they're these emotions that are constant. Everything is always in a state of like overwhelm, exhaustion, feeling like you're drowning, feeling like you're not able to keep your head above water, um, feeling like your negative chatter is so loud that you can't shut it off. And when that becomes nonstop, when those scripts play over and over in your mind, that's when you know that there's something really going on. Because if 2 years ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, that wasn't the way your mental health was feeling, if that wasn't the idea and the way that your brain was working and speaking with you, then that's when you take note and say, okay, let me take a minute and really think about this, what's going on here. And then if you find that you're in those positions, well, the first thing you want to do is obviously try to talk to somebody and say, okay, I think I'm burned out. But if you're not in a position to just dive into Google and find support, then you can just take a moment and take a big breath and think really clearly, what is happening? How did I feel 2 months ago? It's almost like a self-assessment of, okay, what's going on here? And then taking that space and being able to think clearly of, okay, for instance, the cupboard. Okay, how many times has this cupboard been open? Probably 50. Has it ever bothered me before? No. Okay, what's going on now that I feel so anxious and angry? I want to slam that cupboard and just fire off. And then when you have that moment of clarity, you can realize, okay, something more is going on. I need to figure out exactly what this is. And oftentimes it is burnout. And as we spoke about before, it's not that there's only burnout, there can be other issues as well. And then a therapist can help with that part of it. But absolutely in burnout, there's a big reaction mode that we get into. And the best and first thing to do is to stop, take a breath and think, what is happening? How long ago has this been happening? And why now is it such a different reaction for me? And that will offer really profound insight, I believe.
It sounds so simple, but it's been scientifically proven just by taking those breaths, what that can do for you. We're going to go to a call. Hi, who's this?
Hi, my name is Emily.
Emily, checking in from
Albany.
From Albany. Okay, great. We have a professional burnout specialist with us. Anna is here. Do you have a question?
I do. Okay, so I suffer from really bad anxiety. I'm on medication and it's been helpful. But honestly, I was wondering if Reiki would be able to like help that more because I'm not really where I want to be at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think energy work is always really positive and actually can support any kind of medicine without any, without any interference. And I think that having that still space and just having that energy being given to you is going to really create a space of calm. It's going to connect your body and mind. And you might really be able to have a moment to reflect to figure out, okay, what exactly am I feeling so anxious about? Is it a particular topic? Is it a conversation I had? It will just create that space for clarity and offer support with our health, right? Holistically, because Reiki, I think, is a beautiful practice. So I think that's a safe and a good idea. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for calling.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Yeah, Reiki is pretty amazing. I didn't just discover it. I knew about it for years, but never really had it done until 5 months ago. And wow, I just had it done first in person.
Oh.
4 days ago, 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And I'm still feeling the the chill, the calm. And quite honest, I could be close to that burnout level myself. Not kidding. So it definitely made a difference. And there's all different things. When somebody reaches out to you, Anna, and they're going through a lot in their life and they're trying to, juggle everything, and they think they might be getting to that tipping point. How do you help them? How do you work with them?
Well, so kind of like what we were talking about last time is I have a conversation and I find out exactly what the trigger points are. What's been going on in their lives? How are they feeling? Why now are they feeling like this is more challenging than what it was in the past? And then as I get to know them, I really tailor what I offer to them specifically to their lifestyle, to who they are as a person, to the roles they have in their company, if they're the business owner. It's all very relative to who that person is and what they're going through, because there's not like a one size fits all with this, obviously, because we're human and everyone needs different support. So that's how I start, is I always have a conversation and I ask the simple questions and I listen, and then I just think to myself, okay, what do they need? How can I serve them? And then we start supporting, and it's usually really successful. Like I've said last time, I've had 100% success rate. So, but it's because of that approach. It's very specific, very tailored, and I really care about what I do. And so my goal is to help everybody that I can. And so I take that time to just have that initial conversation.
Would you say that a lot of burnout can be driven by disorganization? Maybe you used to be organized and now life happens and things are all over the place, and just you got to kind of reset that. Can that really elevate the level of burnout?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in those times, oftentimes when that's the world that person's living in, that chaos, that disorganization,
Right.
when one more thing is introduced, that can be the tipping point.
That's a needle in the haystack.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine that. And when you add all of that up, I guess it's cumulative, that it keeps stacking up. All right. This is disorganized. I got to clean my house. My office is a mess. They're calling me. I got to pick up my kid. I got to do this. I got to do that.
Yes.
There you
Yep.
go.
Yep. And it's almost like you become paralyzed, because it's like, I don't know how to even take one step forward because there's so many things I have to tackle and I'm not sure where to start. And that can be the big catalyst of burnout. Like, you don't know what to do. You're so overwhelmed that you're just depleted and you're just unable to make any decision, which is
Yeah.
common in burnout as well.
Depleted's a great word. It really is. And you did say something, all those things that you have to do. Would you say that it's also about reframing your language? Like, got to get up this morning. I got to do this. I can't remember. I got to do that. Reframe it to, I get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that can help, right? But there are other ways that we can, I mean, yes, to answer your question shortly, absolutely, absolutely. But some people, I think that idea has been introduced for a while. And so some people have this natural resistance to the get to. And so it's about, again, that conversation piece of what kind of words really serve that person. I agree with you that affirmations are important and that using positive words are really powerful. But I think it's, I think get to is really liberating and changes perspective. But I also think there are other words too, because I've had clients too in the past where they don't like get to, because it's just kind of, used so many times, it doesn't resonate with them personally.
Right.
Yeah. But absolutely.
I just framed it in a different way, thinking that, more of a positive thing. Because how many people wake up first thing in the morning and it's like, have that list going in their head before they even get out of their bed.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. But really it's important for us, and I know it can be challenging, but it's important for us to recognize and always really embrace the fact that every day really is a gift. When we get to wake up and get out of bed, that's a gift.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes people don't, right? I mean, it just happens. And so I think that's one great way to really bring in a positive attitude, is to be like, I got to wake up. I got to wake up today. I get to go do a shower. I get to use my running water. So yeah, get to in that way is really powerful. But it's that perspective that we're all really blessed in what we have, right? If we get to wake up and walk, or wake up and see the sun, or wake up and hear a bird, I mean, that's beautiful. And it's something that we should really work to not take for granted, because every day really is special, and you get to do whatever you want with every day. I mean, it's your choice, right?
And is it easy to adopt that mindset? No, It's not.
No.
And it takes time to, continually. I've got a friend and he puts a post-it note by the Keurig machine
No.
every morning so that it reminds him to just think that, because we're always like moving, moving, moving. I think we talked briefly about it, but you've been in a burnout situation before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your tipping point?
I think it was the two losses my family suffered back to back within like 9 days of each other. And it was, neither was expected. I mean, oftentimes they're not. And it was just that I didn't, it was like I was trying to mourn, I was trying to host, I was trying to support like my husband, because one of our losses was his mom, which is my mother-in-law. And, it was just so many things. And it was like, how do I help and serve, but also take a moment to know that I'm breaking inside too. And it was just this, like I think I shared with you last time, I was just trying to mop because I had to host because we had family from Maine over here. And I just was like, I can't do this. I cannot push this mop anymore. I'm gonna freak out. I'm losing it. And I just had to take a breath. Nothing happened. My kids didn't start being loud or arguing. Like it was peaceful, it was calm. I was just trying to mop. And I just had this moment of like, I can't do this. I literally cannot do this. I'm going to lose it. And I thought, okay, what is happening? This is not usual for me. I know there's a lot going on, but exactly what is this? And I just knew it was burnout, because it was like, you do the best you can. We get thrown in all different positions and spaces all the time. But there are times where it just seems like, I don't know why, but I cannot do this. And that's the burnout. That's the, oh my gosh, something really serious is happening here.
Yeah. The scales tipped.
Uh,
Yeah. Honestly, as you're explaining that, I was getting a little anxious hearing it, being very honest with you, because I could sense it, your energy and everything coming from you.
yeah, it was, yeah. And that's what that is. And it was also beautiful in the way of, it gave me so much empathy and compassion for the people that I get to serve. And at that point, I had not served yet, but then, moving forward, I began to. But it gives me that insight, because I remember that feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, and it was just excruciating. And so what I do is I really work to help everyone feel supported and seen and heard, and know that like it's going to be okay, because it will. But in that moment, it feels like I don't know how to even proceed. I don't even know how to take one step forward. And I don't want anyone to feel that way ever. I mean, we all will, we all do. It's natural. But if I can help, that is why I'm here.
And I think also, and for a lot of us, it's dealing with a trauma. I mean, that's traumatic, what you described. And all of us have those traumas in our lives. And then you take life in general and put that on top of it. And also, you got to remember too, not in your situation, but overall, that you can't control other people. So you have to have that reality check that, it's maybe it's not you, maybe it's them, and there's nothing you can do. That's it.
That's right. And I often, with that kind of situation, I always encourage whoever I'm talking to detach from the outcome. With a person you're trying to help or talk through, or even if you're coaching them at work, or if it's an employee situation, or if it's a family or friend member, it's you have to detach. You do the best you can do to be kind and speak to them with whatever conversation you need to have. But then it's important for us to detach from the outcome, because you're right. We have no control on how they're going to react. We have no control how they're going to process what we said, and we have no control if it's going to fix the situation or not. Right? At the end of the day, all we can do is speak our part and kind of get it off of our chest, but then let go of what the response from the person will be. Because when we can, liberate ourselves from that, it makes it almost more accepting as well, that, okay, if they're not able to hear what I said or meet me where I'm trying to, meet them, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's,
So you've had two words today that I thought were very powerful, and they both start with the letter D. The first one was depleted, which says it all right there, and detach. And I think that's a great word when you're dealing in a situation and you can't do anything about it, and you're almost powerless in where you are, to just go take the right road, the positive direction, and detach from it. And I don't know, maybe that's not right. Some people say, when you just I call it the file cabinet of life. Throw the things in a file cabinet, close the door. Sometimes the file cabinet overflows or the bucket of emotions overflow, and then maybe burned out at that point.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when somebody calls you, how does it all start? And again, I think it's great that somebody specializes in burnout. You start with a conversation, you kind of peel back a couple of layers, and where do you go from there?
Well, and so oftentimes people, they call me and they say, well, I think I'm burnt out. And I'm like, okay, well, talk with me. How are things going? And then they're like, well, I don't know what to say. And so I just nurture them and say, just talk about whatever's happening. And really through that conversation I just give them space to talk, and I'm truly genuinely listening and trying to pull out the pieces that are triggering the burnout, that are the signs of the burnout. Then at the end of the conversation, I go back to them and I say, okay, it sounds like you have a certain level of anxiety because of this happening in your life. It sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed with your job because you're the business owner or you're the director or CEO or CFO. And this new change in the organization has happened. And then they oftentimes will say, yeah, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that that's what was happening, even though they literally just told me. But, it's that processing. It's that idea that they're not even aware of all the things that have caused that burnout and why they're feeling the way that they are. And so once we start with that conversation, then I just talk with them about, I think I talked with you last week about the 12-week program that I do. And then we just go from there. And like I said, it's been always really successful. And it's because I care and I really want everyone to feel well and be well.
Well, what's fantastic is we've got therapists, and they're important. There are life coaches out there. They're important, but you specialize in one thing. And if that's what somebody's dealing with, I got to believe you get right to the meat of it and start working on it. Yeah. And we have a minute or so left before we leave each other. I hate the way that sounds. before we detach. I think it's important to note, I'm pretty sure that this month is Suicide Prevention Month. And, just a thought that popped in my head, if anybody's at that point where I can't deal anymore, there's people there to talk.
Yes. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because last week I was reflecting on what should we talk about this week. And that kept coming up, really honestly. And that's really the worst case scenario of burnout. That hopelessness, that idea that nothing's going to get better, nothing is going to change. If you're feeling that way, reach out to somebody. If you're feeling that way, you can email me. I mean, honestly, it will get better. This is a moment in time, but please offer, ask for help. I mean, that's the first step, is like, I don't feel like myself. I don't feel well. Just have that conversation, because I agree with you. I mean, that is heartbreaking and it's awful.
I don't know why I felt I had to mention that, but when my gut says it and it drops out of the sky, it's just there. And I believe there's a new hotline. If you're having trouble, there where you feel like you're past burnout, 988 is that number. For somebody that does feel burned out and needs some help, how do they reach you?
So you can email me directly at thehappinesseffect@gmail.com. That's affect with an A, intentional. And then you can check me out on LinkedIn, and I'll be the first name that pops up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and once again, your name, Anna Lovell Nesmith. That combination of names, I got to believe you're going to be the first one that pops up. Always great talking with you. Very relatable. Whether somebody's going through it right now or you feel it's on its way, with your life situation, you got something, you got somebody that can listen and direct you, if you feel burned out. Anna, great talking with you today.
Great talking with you as well. Thank you, Steve.
I appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.